Lagos is a major financial center and economic hub for Nigeria and Africa. Described as Africa's cultural, financial, and entertainment capital, the city has a significant impact on commerce, entertainment, technology, education, politics, tourism, art, and fashion. It is ranked among the world's top 10 fastest growing megacities, has one of the continent's largest and busiest seaports, and has the fourth largest GDP in Africa. The state is home to 65% of Nigeria's businesses, with a presence of more than 2,000 manufacturing companies, 200 financial institutions, and the largest collection of small and medium enterprises in Africa. In the last 2 decades, one man has undeniably been credited with the city's evolution and development as the architect of modern Lagos. His name, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. 22 years after he served as governor of Lagos State, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is meeting with the business community and the organized private sector in Lagos. The town hall meeting, which was held at the Eco Hotel and Suites on Victoria Island, Lagos, had in attendance the president of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, Tony Lumelu, chairman of UBA, Jimovia, chairman of Zenith Bank, Aigboje Ike Imokwede, former chief executive of Access Bank, and other business leaders representing sectorial groups such as agriculture, oil and gas, trade, manufacturing, creative, digital sector, among others. Taking to the podium, the APC presidential standard bearer laid out his action plan before the business leaders. Asiwaju Tinubu said having achieved similar economic success as Lagos State Governor, he has the capacity to repeat the same feat, this time as president.
Nigerians stand at the threshold between indifference and greatness, prosperity and poverty, the future and the past. The door is ajar. Together, let us open it so that we may cross over to the better side and secure for this beloved nation its final and its finest destiny. The productive and beneficial thing we seek to do lie in the sole domain of one sector. They reside in the cooperation between government and the private sector. I see no conflict between the business community and government. Yet, with equal conviction, I believe the private sector and government should constantly be at war. But they wage this battle not as enemies. They must stand as inseparable allies, combating the mutual enemies of scarcity, underdevelopment, joblessness, and fear. This bad thing breed. For this reason, to join you in this battle, I am honored to meet with you, the leaders, the business community, and private sector. Lagos is an appropriate venue to do it. You may have heard that I was once a governor of this state, if you didn't know before. I was once governor May I remind you that when I first entered office, Lagos was a different story. I listened to the current governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. I feel thrilled. I thought my day was made. I don't have to. I don't have to address you again. He said it all. My team and I developed a blueprint, a master plan for Lagos. I can say that plan has been largely successful. We turned this state into a safer, more prosperous place where people can go about and about any legitimate vocation or venture, regardless of their ethnicity, religion, region, or prior social status. We did more than open Lagos for business. We opened the door for all Nigerians to join and experience the recent things progressive democratic governance can bring. We were not perfect, but we did a lot. In doing so, we work hand in hand with the business community as partners, sharing the same goal of prosperity and renewed hope. Well, as you might have heard at some point recently, I now stand before you seeking a bigger yet similar job.
For someone who has done it before while at the helm of affairs as governor of Lagos State, Bola Tinubu reassured the private sector that his government will record double-digit economic growth once it hits the ground running after winning the 2023 election.
The pragmatic problem solving and teamwork, unbreakable teamwork, that improved Lagos is what I want to bring to the nation. I ask you to help as the task ahead is doable but difficult. Here I will say something that captures the essence of our economic challenge. Each of us has the voice, this belief, before in various ways, and you own your words. Each time I say or hear it, I become humbled by the enormity of what we face. Yet, I'm also inspired that we can surmount this great challenge. From its very inception, our political economy has been imbalanced and in need of major reform. Our political economy is much too dependent on the export of raw materials or unfinished goods and the import of increasingly expensive finished products. Over the course of the time, gains from natural resource exports will prove largely insufficient to meet the rising cost of imports, let alone support even the most basic demand of modern democratic governance. the time is now to cure this lapse. It's a disease. We must cure it. And time is of essence, for it does not wait for any man or nation. We commend the work of a prior administration, especially the present government. They did their best. This government has performed with the patriotism and commitment during trying times. If you don't know it was trying time, I know. And many Nigerians know. But we simply must go further and faster. My experiences in both private sector and elective office afford me a special appreciation of economic potency that close collaboration between government and the business community can bring. Allow me to share a few ideas that provide some insight into my vision for a more prosperous and secure nation, where hope is renewed and despair is rebuffed. We must maintain the channels and spirit of respectful and productive dialogue. At the same time, at times, what I say may help you. Other times, what you say may enlighten me. I must listen. We must always talk and converse with the best of intentions, just as this open door policy is with me before the election. I shall continue to honor it, and after the election, I will continue to respect it.
The town hall session had in attendance the vice presidential candidate, Senator Kashim Shettima, Governors Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Simon Bako Lalong, who is also the Director General of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Atiku Bagudu, Abdurrahman Abdulrazak, Abubakar Badaru, Dakpo Abiodun, Adegboyega Oyetola, Nasir El-Rufai, and Abdullahi Ganduje, as well as other party leaders and chieftains. In July 2022, Bola Ahmed Tinubu announced Senator Kashim Shettima as his running mate in the 2023 general election. He made that announcement that fateful Sunday in Daura, the hometown of President Muhammadu Buhari in Katsina State. Shettima, who said it was an honor for him to work side by side with Asiwaju Tinubu in order to achieve the APC presidential candidate's dream for the country, declared that the time had come for Nigerians to manufacture what they consume, even as he projected that the APC administration under them would achieve double-digit GDP growth for the country in the next 2 years. According to the party's vice presidential candidate, the Tinubu-led government would focus on agriculture and increase the quality of life of Nigerians. Just as it says, the focus will be directed on quality education to achieve the same aim.
I will start with a topic that we know is on everyone's mind at this time: security. We recognize that insecurity is a major deterrent of private enterprises and investments, not to talk of the threat to life and livelihoods. That is why we plan to adopt a proactive and intelligence-driven approach to addressing the nation's security challenges. This will include bolstering security forces in numbers, training, equipment, salaries, and welfare. In the last 8 years, our defense budget has increased from 400 billion naira to 1.2 trillion naira per annum. In similar vein, our administration is prepared to make the necessary further investments in order to significantly reduce the nation's security threats. On the other topical matter of the economy, our target, as rightly encapsulated by my principal, is to achieve double-digit GDP growth within a couple of years. The next speaker will talk about the fiscal and monetary policies that will underpin this growth. And of course, we cannot achieve such rapid but necessary sustainable economic trajectory without the requisite infrastructure base. Therefore, we plan to partner with you, the private sector, to undertake a national campaign to develop the infrastructure necessary to facilitate profitable enterprise and improved quality of life. We will continue to engage with you to ensure we are providing you with the support you require in order to develop and implement bankable projects. Of particular note are our planned reforms to reposition Nigeria for sufficient on-grid power generation, transmission, and distribution. We currently transmit about 4,500 megawatts, which is far below our installed generation capacity of approximately 12,000 megawatts. We probably need to generate and deliver 20,000 megawatts to drive rapid economic growth and development in the near to medium term. To this end, we will also implement reforms to drive investment in rural and renewable energy. Addressing our power issue is not a luxury, but a necessity and must be treated as such. And globally, housing development is a big stimulator of economic growth and improved quality of life. With this understanding, we will introduce policies aimed at reducing the housing deficit across the country. This will include streamlining the land conveyancing process and providing the necessary incentives to boost mortgage lending as well as consumer credit in general. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for Nigeria to manufacture, create, and invent more of what Nigerians consume. As such, the Tinubu administration will work to align our infrastructure priorities with the industrial master plan and introduce policies and incentives to encourage local production. As we have seen over the last few years, we cannot continue to be as import dependent as we have been. And shortly, my colleague Olu will also share more details about our plans to reform the oil and gas sector and how we are going to accelerate the full implementation of the PIA so as to fast-track the realization of the expected benefits to all stakeholders, including the use of our gas resources for the nation's electricity industry. Similarly, our action plan for agriculture will focus on how to increase agricultural productivity, mechanization, food security, and farm incomes. The impact of the recent floods on farms and lives has been a wake-up call for all of us. Our plans include establishing commodity boards, deepening the use of commodity exchanges, modernizing and enhancing our grain reserves, providing supporting infrastructure, and improving access to finance. As you may well imagine, another key priority for us is implementing reforms in the education and healthcare sectors aimed at raising the quality of lives of Nigerians, rich and poor alike. We expect to significantly improve the education sector by focusing on the following key indices: quality, access, funding, management, effectiveness, and competitiveness. The key thrust of our approach is to ensure that there is quality education for all. Technical and vocational education is improved, and tertiary education is placed on a solid and sustainable path. We are confident that these improvements will also yield significant benefits to employers.
In his welcome address, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu said the APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu had made his mark in the private sector in governance, recalling that he started the engagement with the private sector as far back as 2001. According to him, Ehingbeti, which was among the products of the engagement, led to infrastructural renewal of Lagos under Tinubu as then governor between 1999 and 2007.
As the 12th executive governor of Lagos State, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu pioneered several firsts, started this engagement with the organized private sector, way ahead of a lot of his peers at that time. You will recall that way back in winning his first tenure as the governor of this state, he started with the Ehingbeti Summit in 2001. That summit had continued to lead and to lead us into various economic agenda that successive government has been able to live on. He started and he baked what we know as the LEAP agenda. Under the LEAP agenda, he created the 10-point developmental agenda. The LEAP agenda, which is called the Lagos Advancement and Economic Program, led to the 10-point agenda at that time. And in the 10-point agenda, the likes of education, health, infrastructural renewal, justice and law and order, food security, public sector reform, public transportation and traffic management, power and water resources, job creation and poverty alleviation, where the high points and the development cliche that both himself and yourselves as organized private sector created way back there in 2002, 2003. You will also remember that at that time, we all, through his leadership, also created the Lagos LACID document, which was a sectoral dissection of what the economy and the economics of Lagos should be for the next 5 to 10 years. You will recall also that it was also during his time that we usually have a regular interactive session with the organized private sector. And you also recall that during his time, several firsts were recorded. It was the first sub-national that brought about independent power projects into our country. It was the first sub-national that was able to ensure that he gets what we see now as the Lekki deep sea port, the first of its kind in the entire southern part of our country. The first that we have seen big, large corporations bathing all their resources in Lagos. Just yesterday, we handed over the completion of the Lekki deep sea port, the biggest, the best, the most formidable port in our country, in West Africa, just by the sheer doggedness and audacity of the man that we're talking about. You will recall also that during his tenure, we birthed the Eko Atlantic, the biggest real estate reclamation that we've seen in the entire sub-Saharan Africa. It was also during his time that indeed the private sector has a space in governance. He created a first-class private sector-driven cabinet that indeed we all know till today is still the envy of everybody. Indeed, this man, he's no stranger to you. This man, he's no stranger to what your needs and your aspirations and your concerns are. This man is no stranger to how you feel as private sector, as businessmen, as businesswomen, as leaders of our economies, to be able to sit with you and ensure that concerns that you have on a day-to-day basis, he can indeed organize and ensure that it will be things of the past. He will be able to bring back his private sector dexterity, his private sector acumen, his private sector trajectory to bear with you, understanding what are your pains, what are your concerns. This is the man that we're here to listen to. This is the man that I know that all of you captains of industry see him as part of you. We are the same coin. We're just on different sides of the coin. Today, he stands here as a politician, as the leader of our party, as a presidential candidate. But if you look at the other side of the coin, you see a man that is compassionate. You say a man that is business driven. You say a man that has a lot of acumen and intelligence and understanding that you, our businesses, go through and understand and appreciate on a day-to-day basis. Leadership, they say it's everything. But leadership is tough. Leadership is hard. You've seen what is happening in global economy. We're not immune. It's not only in our country. It's not only in West Africa. The global trend shows that indeed it's time for leaders to be stand up and be counted. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a man that I've come to respect, is a man that also can help our businesses here in Lagos and in Nigeria.
In his remarks, Director General APC Presidential Campaign Counsel Simon Lalong applauded Tinubu's manifesto to transform the country, declaring that the party's presidential candidate had his name being mentioned consistently since 1999 based on his contributions to the development of Lagos State. According to him, Tinubu has been of support to many businessmen and women and had moved many out of poverty.
This town hall meeting and interaction is one of the avenues adopted by the PCC to ensure that our presidential candidate and his running mate, Senator Kashim Shettima, break down the details of their action plan to all relevant sectors of the Nigerian electorate. You will recall that our candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, gave highlights of his vision for a greater Nigeria when he unveiled his action plan entitled, quote, Renewed Hope, at the Presidential Villa, Abuja recently. In the process of engagement with key stakeholders within the Nigerian project, Asiwaju has decided to meet and speak directly with you about the details of his Renewed Hope agenda, particularly as it relates to the economy, which is your primary constituency. This is because apart from underscoring the important role that you play in building the economic fortunes of Nigeria, he believes that with your support, he will achieve his goals of transforming the nation when elected into office. Most, if not all of you, have known Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in one way or the other, and have also benefited from his political and economic policies that have made sure Lagos remains the economic capital of Nigeria. Since 1999, when he became governor of Lagos, till today, when many governors have run the state after him, there is no time that the name Tinubu does not come up when you talk about the prosperity of this state and many others across the region. Here is a man of vision who believes that nation building requires a systematic approach of generating and implementing innovative ideas to governance, where the best brains are assembled and given responsibilities under supervision and with expected results that are evaluated. That is why he stands tall among most of his peers and all those seeking to govern Nigeria in 2023. We believe that his antecedents and the records of turning waste to wealth and turning despondency to hope makes him the best candidate for the job. I am sure that this forum will enable many of you the opportunity to highlight and to recall some of the policies which he initiated that stood the test of time under various governors that took over from him. For us in APC, marketing Tinubu Shettima presidential brand to the business community in Nigeria is not a difficult task because Asiwaju is successful. He's a successful businessman and one that has mentored and supported many successful businessmen and women. He has turned street boys into business owners and has removed many from poverty. His manifesto, Renewed Hope, which will be part of this discourse, has already outlined practical steps and decisions to be taken on various sectors of the economy once he comes into office. I know that you will take him up on all issues in the document which concern you or require clarification. As the DG of the PCC, and with the hindsight of working closely with him, I can assure you that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is passionate about bringing prosperity to all Nigerians through providing the right environment for the private sector to thrive. Apart from his commitment to revamp energy and power, he has vowed to root out all security threats in whatever form and from all parts of the country. Asiwaju is eager. Asiwaju is eager to put our youth to work and reducing poverty through job creation and opening up opportunities. This can only be achieved with your support, as you are the people that will create these jobs when his government gives you the conducive environment to operate and thrive. Once again, I welcome you and urge you to feel free to engage the APC presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the city boy, who is at home with the business community and the organized private sector in no other place than Lagos, which has his footprints all over.
The event also featured a panel session largely made up of young Nigerians who bore their minds intelligently on the developmental plan of the APC.
The Tinubu-Shettima administration will drive industrialization by growing domestic gas consumption to 3 BCF per day by 2030, to be used in the power sectors, the fertilizer sector, and other petrochemical sectors. To achieve this, we will unlock investments and accelerate the completion of critical projects like Asa North, OB3, ELPS, AKK. The Tinubu-Shettima administration will deliver on the decade of gas by doing the following. Within 12 months, we'll transition domestic gas prices to allow investors earn a commercial return on gas supply. We will pay off the accumulated debts owed by the power sector to the gas suppliers. NERC will be allowed to enable discos charge electricity tariffs that earn a commercial return for their investors and pay commercial prices for gas. On the energy transition, we have set a target to achieve net zero by 2060. It is important to note that Nigeria's contribution to emissions is minimal, but we are disproportionately impacted by climate change. There are no credible paths to Nigeria's low-carbon future that involves zero fossil fuels or abandoning all of the activities that emit greenhouse gases, like agriculture, steel and cement production. With climate change, we do not have a fossil fuels problem, we have an emissions problem. Nigeria will reduce its emissions through programs like the gas flares commercialization program and invest its scarce resources in climate resilience. Until we have cheap batteries that can store electricity, grid-scale electricity, for long periods of time, gas will provide base load generation for the grid. Nigeria's ambitions go beyond LPG cooking stoves in our kitchens and solar lights in our rooms. Our participation in the energy transition value chain must extend beyond selling commodities like oil, gas, and lithium and cobalt. We must manufacture the key inputs for the energy transition, components of electric vehicles, solar panels, computers, and cell phones, which are derived from petrochemicals. In short, we will curb our emissions, but not our ambitions. Our need to fuel economic growth at rates that significantly exceed our population growth has never been more urgent, as you heard the vice presidential candidate say. A Tinubu-Shettima administration will do the following to attract capital to this critical sector. First, they will restore investor confidence in our existing production capacity. The normal cycle of IOCs divesting mature oil and gas provinces to independence with leaner cost structures has been accelerated by crude theft and pipeline vandalization. The Tinubu-Shettima team has the political will to take on vested interests to end crude theft. It will also ensure the 3% host community fund brings about much needed development in host community, fosters a more secure operating environment, and reduces the cost of doing business. Secondly, they'll grow exports. A society is not rich because of its resources. It is rich because of what it does with those resources.
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu correctly believes that the final solution to the challenges in agriculture and endemic rural poverty lies in reconnecting both sectors to the global market to overcome the crippling effects of the sector's undercapitalization. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu correctly believes that there is no better way to attract the needed investment and improvement in the two interrelated sectors than through regional commodity exchanges. The regional commodity exchanges would come with institutions, infrastructures, and instruments that would address the enduring challenges of low agricultural productivity, negate the lack of financial inclusion among 40 million farmers and rural dwellers, stop the arbitrage which keeps our farmers in perpetual poverty, reverse the absence of a national food security program, open up the global markets for agricultural output, turning around the lack of standardization, and ultimately guarantee an endless flow of liquidity from the global financial markets for the proper capitalization and substantial improvement of output in agriculture in Nigeria. There are very compelling macroeconomic factors why commodity exchanges should start as regional entities. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a strong advocate for the political reorganization and economic restructuring of Nigeria, believes that the federating unit requires solid economic institutions and structures that would endanger commercial competition and capital accumulation among the federating unit. In parts of the country where agriculture and rural areas are the major components of the informal sector, we believe that the practice of a warehousing receipt system will shrink the informal sector and make deposit money banks viable enough to extend financial inclusion to rural inhabitants, including women farmers. A warehousing receipt system will also turn the huge farming population of 40 million people into taxpayers. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu subscribes to the world perspective that it is this transformation of 40 million farmers into taxpayers that will make the subnational government finally financially viable.
It is often said that the small and medium enterprise is the lifeblood of an economy. Today, in Nigeria, it accounts for 96% of businesses, 84% of employment, but contributes just 48% to the gross domestic product. If, therefore, to further energize and to serve as a catalyst for growth of the economy, it would be best to strengthen the SMEs. There are various challenges facing the SMEs today in Nigeria, chief of which is access to adequately priced capital. A Tinubu-Shatima administration will work with financial institutions, the relevant regulatory agencies, to ensure that it provides adequately priced capital for deserving SMEs. This will serve SMEs to start up, strengthen, and to scale. Secondly, there is an infrastructure deficit in Nigeria. The incoming administration will work assiduously partnering with international institutions to develop and strengthen the regulatory framework for PPP, as well as other and alternative innovative financing models to fund the infrastructure deficit and to ensure that SMEs can grow, SMEs can gain sustainable profit margins to scale. Third is the capacity gap. The establishment of an SME academy to strengthen and build up capacity within the SME sector will generate more income, lead more SMEs to success, and sustainable growth in the economy. The administration will ensure that SMEs are strengthened to tap into and benefit from the 1.3 billion people market created by the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. But last but not least, the Tinubu-Shettima administration will revise the Smithern Act to empower the institution to implement these reforms amongst many others. The Tinubu-Shettima administration will ensure that goods and services consumed daily in Nigeria are produced locally to strengthen the economy. This it will do by providing access to capital, by strengthening the SMEs, and bridging the infrastructure gap. Now, this may be the best laid plans, but Nigeria has not had issues with plans. Its issues are with execution. In Asiwaju Tinubu, we have a leader who has repeatedly demonstrated the political will and the political capital to execute. Asiwaju gets things done. Please permit me to leave you with an analogy. If SMEs are the lifeblood of the economy, government is the heartbeat. A Tinubu-Shettima administration is a strong, solid, and sound heartbeat to energize the SME sector of Nigeria.
Nigeria has already shown early indicators of success in leading Africa and the world in the digital economy. Lagos is one of the top 100 startup cities in the world. Nigeria is home to 5 of Africa's $7 billion companies. Last year, our technology founders brought home a third of the $5.4 billion invested in venture capital across Africa. And according to our most recent Q2 GDP numbers by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, the technology sector leads all other sectors, including oil and gas, in its contribution to 18.44% of our GDP. Beyond all of that, it has been responsible, and I have personally witnessed this, for a mini economic miracle that has seen tens of thousands of young people lift themselves out of poverty by legitimately earning considerable amounts of foreign exchange, working from right here in Nigeria for global technology companies all over the world. The Tinubu-Shettima administration sees the early promise of the digital economy and is committed to doubling down on it. We believe there are 4 pillars we must focus on in this regard, as typified by the acronym TIME. The first is talent. How do we retool our education system to provide our young people the digital skills they need to contribute to the digital economy? The second is infrastructure. How do we invest in infrastructure for the digital economy, including broadband? The third is markets. How do we leverage technology and innovation to more effectively aggregate demand and supply to create new globally relevant markets in the wake of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement? And the last but not the least is the environment. How will we lead the global carbon transition by investing in our universities to undertake R&D efforts to innovate scalable net zero technologies and processes that can be applied across agriculture, energy, manufacturing, in particular?
The Tinubu-Shettima administration is fully committed to position Nigeria as Africa's #1 frontier for technology startups. The administration will do this through the following: policies. We will create policies that encourage the growth of tech startups building solutions using emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and robotics, and also encourage local and international VCs to invest in tech startups in Nigeria. How will we do this? We will do this by reducing bureaucracies and red tapes for startups to be able to get permits, and also give them tax incentives and access to market, access to government contracts. Another way to improve startups is to export tech talent. 60% of Nigeria's population are youths. We will build capacity by providing digital skill development through subsidizing STEM education. This will help the rapid growth of tech startups, and Nigeria will see lots of talents to export and also earn foreign exchange, which is very, very critical for the economy. The Tinubu-Shettima administration will position Nigeria as Africa's #1 frontier for technology startups through technology and innovation. Now, our technology and innovation master plan has several pillars to drive the innovation pipeline. The administration will capitalize on each stage of the pipeline and subsidize research and development across our universities and institutes to develop breakthrough innovation. Now, we all know that a country that doesn't innovate cannot survive. What the government will do is it would entrust government projects to these R&D programs, and also develop homegrown solutions to our local problems. We will use homegrown solutions to solve our critical problems, and we will fund R&D as a way of accelerating innovation and startup growth in Nigeria.
The nation is not driven by itself, but the content and the people who resides in it, who will not be satisfied with the average standard of living. A nation like Nigeria, the giant of Africa, it will move, crush all enemies, bring progress and prosperity for us today and tomorrow.
In his
Thank you for
words,
listening.
here is a
Thank
recap
you
of
very
the
much.
ideas and vision Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu shared with the business community for a more prosperous and secure nation where hope is renewed and despair rebuffed. All Nigerians must be invested in our better future. We must maintain the channels and spirit of respectful and productive dialogue. We must target double-digit GDP to begin to reduce the poverty rate, and I am determined to accomplish this. We shall bring the nation's industrial policy to life. Key to this is our aim to create major and minor industrial hubs in each geopolitical zone. We shall continue to press reforms in the sector that will increase productivity and improve farm incomes while lowering food prices and bringing enough food to the tables of ordinary people. I am determined to give you the affordable and reliable power you need to drive your businesses in a way that lifts the entire economy. We seek a consumer credit revolution, working in concert with the banking industry led by the CBN. Credit at affordable rates enables the purchase of more cars and the construction of more homes. We must continue with the expansion of infrastructure commenced by the current government, from our roads and ports that will pave the way for more commerce.
You have seen it all. You are convinced, out of all the contenders for the presidency in the political firmament of Nigeria today, I make bold to state emphatically, none has demonstrated this dexterity and knowledge and vision and courage. Till the very moment. And mark my words, What you are seeing here is just a minuscule of what you are going to have when the government is in place in terms of the knowledge, the methodology of how to achieve and translate vision into reality, as have been amply demonstrated by the principal and his vice in their respective states. And that's why we always hammer on the track record of achievements of these two fine gentlemen, achievers, performers in their own right. The symbolism must never be lost on us. They have shown it, they've demonstrated it, and another dimension is actually the team. They have engaged in interactive sessions with you, and that is a pointer, an indicator to the style of administration of this incoming government. It will engage you, the public, in all its policy, conceptualization, enunciation, execution, and monitoring all the way.
In 2023, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is poised to hit the ground running with responsible and responsive leadership for Nigeria to prosper as a nation and thrive as a people. The take-home from this town hall meeting with the business community and the organized private sector is a nation with hope renewed, where dignity in labor is realized and the potential of industry is maximized.
God bless the Republic of Nigeria. Please free the exit way. Thank you very much.